we are today. I'm Florence Comite, and we're at the 17th Age Management Medicine Conference in Las Vegas. And I'm lucky enough to be interviewing Dr. Barry Sears. He has a lot of topics we could talk about, and he's a font of wisdom. I think we're going to focus on the future of medicine.
Thank you. It's a pleasure being here. And again, it's a great topic because it's germane to what will be the future of healthcare in America and throughout the world. And I try to take a global view of what the future of medicine is and look at medicine over the years. We had the era of drugs. Drugs only affect enzyme action. And then we had the next era of basically hormonal replacement, saying hormones are much more powerful than drugs. And therefore it basically gives now greater power to change healthcare. And I think we're entering the third phase right now, the changing of gene expression, not by stem cells, but by diet. And that's, I think, where the real future of medicine lies, of using diet to change the expression of genes through gene transcription factors. And once we understand what are the appropriate nutrients and the therapeutic levels required, we usher in another area of even higher ability to control the health outcome of patients.
I couldn't agree more. You're talking about the field of epigenetics, where we can look at genes. For example, there's a population of patients that I monitor and follow. If we find they have 9p21 as a gene which increases your risk, if you're homozygote, it increases your risk of an early heart attack by 1.75%. And yet if you eat a diet filled with fruits and vegetables,
correct,
and raw fruits and vegetables, and there's great data, I think out of Norway, Sweden, Finland, you can actually reverse that expression and you look like you don't have that gene at all. You don't die early of a heart attack.
Exactly, and this is now basically what is now the thrust, I believe, of saying, looking at the food. We said fruits and vegetables. Say, what's in there? Let's make a wild guess. Polyphenols, because these polyphenols we know at high concentrations can alter expression of our genes and also change the epigenetic marks. The problem is fruits and vegetables are very low in polyphenols. You have to eat maybe 2 pounds of vegetables every day. People say, that's mission impossible, I can't do it. Saying, if you want to change your genes, you have to. Or, can I possibly get more concentrated polyphenols? One of the first uses of biotechnology was that. It's called making wine. Now, there are no benefits to alcohol. No one talks about the health benefits of vodka, but there are health benefits to red wine. Why? It's rich in polyphenols. So my best estimate, you need about at least 1 gram a day of polyphenols.
So how much wine are you recommending that we drink every day?
Well, you could eat 2 pounds of vegetables. Say, no way.
Right.
Okay, how much red wine do I have to drink? 11 glasses every day. And you say, well, I'll become an alcoholic. Well, I don't like red wine. I like white wine. Good. Only 110 glasses. So we begin to see, say, if we can concentrate these polyphenols up, then we might be able to get the levels that can change gene expression. But polyphenols are only one part of what I call anti-inflammatory nutrition. Eventually, all roads lead back to inflammation. All chronic disease is really inflammation at its core. So we have polyphenols, the fruits and vegetables. That's why your grandmother said you had to eat them. The omega-3 fatty acids, they are not so much as anti-inflammatory agents, but pro-resolution agents. That's the really key. But again, you need a therapeutic level to basically resolve inflammation. And finally, a diet. You need an anti-inflammatory diet. And all three work together. And the more we work in medicine to basically make these the foundation of medicine, then the less drugs and the less hormones we need to affect actions. So again, I stand back in awe saying, how little we know. How little we know how nutrients affect gene expression. But the more we know, we move into a new era of medicine. And we go back to the beginnings of medicine with Hippocrates, 2,500 years ago, when he said, let food be your medicine, let medicine be your food. They said, well, that old guy didn't know anything. It turns out he is at the cutting edge of 21st century biotechnology. He understood that the components in food that have been co-evolving with our genes for hundreds of millions of years are the integral parts that can turn on and turn off genes. So you don't need stem cell therapy, you need the right diet, and perhaps a few extra purified nutrients like omega-3 fatty acids and polyphenols.
Well, that's a fascinating point. I'd love you to articulate perhaps a bit more on the essential measurements and metrics we need to know in terms of data for each human being. That would be one question. Another question that I ponder quite frequently is the fact that we're not living in the same world as Hippocrates lived in. We don't have a garden right outside our doorstep. In New York, you're lucky if you have a doorstep. And you can't grow your own fruits and vegetables to peak ripeness. You don't even know the source of where the fruits and vegetables are coming from. How do you ensure, and I have this question asked of me all the time, that you can get the highest quality fruits and vegetables? So in a way, are we not manufacturing what used to come naturally to our system through the world we lived in?
Well, let me ask the first question, because one of the things in medicine, we talk about evidence-based medicine. Well, let's talk about evidence-based wellness. What's our criteria of wellness? I'm not sick. That's no criteria. So you need markers of wellness. And I use 3. And this basically allows the physician to say, my job is to maintain the wellness of the patient as long as possible. First marker, the levels of cellular inflammation. You measure that by the ratio of 2 fatty acids in the blood, arachidonic acid to EPA. One starts inflammation, one resolves it. So those are balanced. Basically, you're in a good state. Another one is the ratio of triglycerides to HDL. The first marker that insulin resistance is now spreading to other organs, primarily the liver. And the third marker, glycosylated hemoglobin. Don't want it too high, you don't want it too low, about 5% is fine. So with those markers, and now the physicians say, I'm going to basically now use a nutritional approach to get you into that zone where basically inflammation and resolution are balanced. And that's my job, and to keep you there for a lifetime. Now, pondering the second question, it's a very tough one. We can learn from the past, we can't live in the past. So we have what today is our biggest problem worldwide, is what I call processed foods 1.0. These are foods that basically have allowed globalization of food and basically have made food much less expensive. They had some problems. They make you fat, they make you sick, they make you age faster. So we're really looking at, in the future, of processed foods 2.0. What knowledge can we glean from basically the past and now basically be able to industrialize and reduce the cost of the things which we know are important that affect those markers of wellness? The omega-3 fatty acids are one. For example, if I want 2.5 grams of omega-3 fatty acids a day, that's the amount you'd find in a tablespoon of cod liver oil. I'd have to eat 2 pounds of tuna. So, not going to happen. Can I concentrate up? Yes, you can. That's processing, but basically we're learning from the past and use it in the future. Likewise, the polyphenols. It's going to be basically hard to eat 2 pounds of vegetables, much less grow them in New York City. So basically, if we can concentrate up the key polyphenols, maybe it's an easier delivery system. And likewise for the diet. We refine the diet to basically find those things that can basically keep that patient in that zone of wellness. And so now we basically have to look at processed foods 2.0 that now make us lean, make us well, and make us live longer. And so there, I think, is the solution to the dilemma.
I think that's an elegant solution. Does that mean, though, however, that we're going to be taking foods in their natural state and making it more as a supplement so that we can get all these processed 2.0 as you refer to it?
I think the answer is somewhat yes. As you said, the foods we eat today are very different than the foods we ate in the past. So let's not kid ourselves. Saying, I'm eating my kale, saying, no, it's going to be a little different. But we do face a problem. Today we have 7 billion people on the face of the earth, soon to go to 11. Unless we solve this problem, we're going to have mass starvation. Or basically have more people consuming processed foods 1.0, which will lead to a boatload of problems that no country in the world has the resources to solve. Today in America, we are the richest country in the world. We have the greatest number of medical researchers. And we seem to be powerless to stop chronic diseases like obesity, diabetes. But the third one's coming, Alzheimer's. They're all linked together. Increased inflammation in different organs. If your fat cells are inflamed, you become fat. Your pancreas is inflamed, you get diabetes. Your brain becomes inflamed, you get Alzheimer's. What we're watching now is the metastatic spread of inflammation from one organ to another. And that inflammation is now basically driven by processed foods 1.0. Now, we could go back to the old ways and grow our own food if we somehow have a lottery where half the people get a white ball and half people get a black ball. And the ones that get the black ball saying you're gone. We could basically sustain our population at 3 billion, but not 7 and definitely not 11. So we have a problem. The drug industry says, I can give you more expensive drugs. That's not the solution. Our solution is to go back and learn from the past and use the new biotechnology that understands how our food affects not only our cells, but really we're not humans. We're only partially human. We have 10 times more bacteria in our gut. We're a hybrid. We're a bacterial-human hybrid. So understanding how our gut affects our human cells and say, that's all affected by the food. But this is so complex, we're only beginning to touch the surface. So I think the exciting times in medicine are really coming, but it's basically a new format of looking at diet as our primary drug. It doesn't say there's no place for drugs, but it says the more you treat diet like a drug, taking it the right dosage, the less drugs or less hormones I will need to basically address the symptoms.
I couldn't agree more with everything you said. How do you see the microbiome and the use of antibiotics, and even so far as wiping out H. pylori, for example, and the changes that induced in our future, or today as we see the future?
Well, again, be careful what you wish for. And basically, the one great success of, at least initial success of the drug industry is saying, we can wipe out bacterial infections, collateral damage. And we're seeing that now played out on a worldwide basis. So we have to step back and saying we have to be incredibly careful of what we put in the environment. Let's not just stop right with antibiotics. Let's go on to toxins, because we've always used chemicals. We put millions of different chemicals in the environment, saying as long as the rats didn't have a hand growing out of the head, it's okay to use. It's not quite that aspect, because we now know that those levels of toxins at 100 times lower can leave now epigenetic marks on the fetus that can be transmitted from one generation to the next and amplified. And those marks, basically, much of them are caused by two things: the mother's diet and the exposure of the fetus to incredibly low levels of toxins. They don't leave basically of birth defects, but they leave metabolic defects. And this will be now a multi-generational problem. It usually takes about 3 years, 3 generations to remove these epigenetic marks. So it says we have a multi-generational war to go back to where we were. So we too have become modified. People say, no more GMO. I said, you're missing the boat. You should be more concerned about genetically modified humans. We become genetically modified at the epigenetic level by the food we eat, by the toxins we put into the environment. And it's going to take a concerted effort worldwide to bring us back to where we were 3 to 4 generations ago. Whether we have the will, I don't know.
Yeah, I think this is it's a noble cause, and I'm with you all the way. In fact, there was a recent study reported looking at the microbiome from the perspective of an endocrinologist, and how quickly we can actually change what lines our GI tract and how the changes that it then induces metabolically and hormonally. I guess the question is, where do we begin? It's a big world out there. Everybody calls with colds or coughs and wants a Z-Pak, which by principle alone I never prescribe, because I think it's overprescribed and it's not even effective. But on the other hand, how do you realistically get your arms around an exploding world? And these are mega issues, each one of the ones you touched on.
No question. And again, part of it starts with tough love. Saying, no Z-Pak. Okay, I'll go somebody else. Saying, fine, at least I drew a line in the sand.
Right.
Okay, you might feel like Don Quixote, but saying, let's say, this is not right. And it's also education. This is complex. We live in a world of sound bites. But, when we go back now, learning back from the past, our number one defense is a strong gut. And basically, the more we cultivate our friendly bacteria and weed out the bad guys, the stronger our gut is, and therefore the better off will we survive as our part of this hybrid mechanism that we call human beings. We basically have such an arrogant aspect. I have 1 human cell for 10 bacterial cells. Who's in charge? Well, it turns out the bacteria are calling the shots to a great amount, and we're only at the cusp of understanding the power of that, and the power of the nutrients to dramatically affect the composition of that community we have that we have to live with for the rest of our lives.
I think that's fascinating. I don't know how familiar you are with the H. pylori story.
Yes.
The fact that wiping it out has now led to increased asthma and allergies in children, plus the advent of esophageal cancer versus stomach cancer later in life.
As I said, be careful what you wish for.
Exactly.
So I say, we can't bring Barry White's Nobel Prize back, but that's
Right.
but he's saying good idea, but perhaps myopic.
It speaks to your point that we are made up of multiple organisms.
Exactly.
And we live in some symbiosis with our world. The question is, how do we slowly adapt the way people think about health? Because they feel healthy until all of a sudden they have a heart attack. They don't understand that at a cellular level, there's evolution and there's change. And we're actually getting a little sicker every day if we don't pay attention.
Well, I think our first step is education. And that's why conferences like this are so important, is educating those physicians who see the problem. But they're somewhat rudderless to say, which direction I go. Unless they see a clear direction they can hopefully communicate to their patients, then we're going to go nowhere. Because it's a sea change that will require, again, a massive change in thought, because we're on the verge of basically seeing complete economic destruction of every country in the world. So again, say, but we're only a small group of physicians. You have to start somewhere. And hopefully from that start point, and root word of doctor comes from Latin, meaning to teach. So my goal is to teach the patient how to take care of themselves. Help them, guide them like a coach, not a pill pusher, and say, I'm a coach. I'm moving in the right direction. And we have to basically change our whole mindset, because if the future of our country is based on our children, our future is bleak. And so that we have to say, it becomes now a national security issue. And because right now, our whole population is in the throes of the third generation of processed foods 1.0. The results are not pretty. But to turn back that requires both political will, economic will, and medical knowledge. And it's a moving target, but it can be done. I'm an eternal optimist.
I agree. I'm there with you, and all the things you say, I echo, really. So if you were going to pick 3 important points for us to tell our patients, because the doctors here at the Age Management Medicine Conference are early adapters. They're looking at their frustrations in medicine, not just the economics of medicine, but how do we help people get well instead of seeing the average 80-year-old on 25 pills. Yeah. I'm not ruling out the need for pills or supplements or any of that. I think we have to look at each individual. But if you were going to pick where to start, I'm assuming it's inflammation, what would you have each one of these doctors do, and how would you have them integrated into their practice?
Well, first of all, be able to have them teach their patients. So I say 3 things. Put as much color on your plate as possible. Here's another corollary of that. The more white that's on your plate, the more inflammation you create. It's kind of Clint Eastwood. Do you feel lucky? Do you feel lucky? So eat the white pasta, eat the white bread.
Mind is a pretty powerful thing, so if you feel lucky, you are lucky.
But saying put as much color in your plate.
Right.
2.
Eat the colors of the rainbow.
Second, do what your grandmother said, take your fish oil. Okay, it's so expensive. Even though it's highly polluted, I'd rather have you take cod liver oil than nothing. And number 3, basically always carry a watch with you. Why is that? Because the watch will tell you how well you balanced your meal. That basically if you balanced your meal correctly, you put a lot of color on the plate and a little protein, and how much? The amount you can put in the palm of your hand. And again, your dietary philosophy determines what type of protein you like. If you're a vegan, okay, your choices are limited. If you're a lacto-vegetarian, you've got a few more choices. I'm a paleo person saying, fine, don't eat dairy, don't eat legumes. I love food, saying, good, you're a Mediterranean. That just tells you that's the amount, no more. Now, if you've done it right, for the next 5 hours, you won't be hungry. See, well, why? Because you balanced your hormones. And say, balance your hormones, basically like the old saying, happy wife, happy life, happy hormones, happy life.
There are people along a scale, though. We can't assume we're going to be wiping out inflammation all at once. So there are folks who, before 5 hours is up, are going to suffer with hypoglycemia because they're still out of balance. So I presume it's a process that you're looking at with each human being. You collect some information, and then you focus on eating all the colors educating and making sure you have a watch on you?
Well, actually, it turns out it's actually faster than that. The data from Harvard Medical School 15 years ago demonstrated you can take obese children and do that little balancing plate, and within one meal, they automatically eat 25% less calories. So it happens very quickly. Hormones change incredibly quickly at each meal. Drugs can't do that.
They do.
Hormone replacement can't do that. But the food can change them rapidly.
Yes.
So again, I think that you have to look to say, if I can get that balance for the greatest good of the people in almost overnight, I can basically do two things. They're not hungry. If they're not hungry, guess what? They eat less food. And if you eat less food, you lose weight. If you lose weight, what happens? Good things. And at the same time, they're more focused because you're stabilizing blood sugar levels. And the watch will tell you how successful you are. So I think that basically it can happen quickly, but it's really an educational process. Going back to the doctor as a teacher. He said, but I don't get paid to teach. Saying, there's the problem. We had to get a healthcare system that basically incentivizes the doctor to maintain wellness of the patient, not to treat illness. Until we have that, basically it's spitting into the wind. It's just not going to happen. The doctor say, what's in it for me? I'm a small business person. I want to get paid for basically promoting wellness. I'm really sick and tired of basically treating illness. But until the government and insurance companies say, we can make more money by promoting wellness, we have a real hard problem to overcome.
I agree. And as a final question, where do we send our patients who ask us to get the best omega fatty acids that they can get? Where would they go? Do you recommend any site? I'm assuming you might have access to it.
This is a self-serving statement, but I'd recommend they go to zonediet.com. And the reason I say that, because we're the only company in the world who makes fish oils that will post the levels of PCBs, post the levels of Totox of every lot on the site. So it gives now absolute transparency to the physician and the patient to what they're getting. Is it cost a lot of money? Yes, but that's basically, that's your commitment to excellence. You want people to know what they're getting. And without that knowledge, then basically they're making decisions which come back to haunt them.
Is there any way to tell if you're getting your omegas, how much PCPs are in them, as opposed to, I know your concern is less about mercury, more about PCPs. How would we know what percent or how much PCPs are present?
Well, you really won't, unless you happen to have a $1 million electron beam capture chromatograph in your kitchen. But going to our website would be one, so at least we have a standard.
Right.
Here's what everybody else who sells fish oils. Here's the poor man's way. Take your fish oil, make 4 or 5 capsules, break up the capsules, and put them in a shot glass. Put the shot glass in the freezer.
I'm assuming no vodka or anything
No
else.
vodka, no.
Okay.
Come back 5 hours later with a toothpick.
Okay.
If you can't put the toothpick through the fish oil, it means it's frozen solid, it's rich in PCBs.
And you put it in the freezer. So you take 4 or 5 capsules.
Yep.
You open them up.
Put them in, you have 4 or
Shot
5
glass.
and 5 liquid, and say, come back 5 hours later.
Wow.
5 capsules,
That's a
5
wonderful
hours.
tip.
And say, that's a first estimate to say, okay, it might be okay.
Right.
But basically, say, when you find out that 94% of all fish oils fail the toothpick test, you say, oh my God,
Wow.
what have I been taking?
That's very useful. I really enjoyed hearing your presentation. It's a perfect fit to what we at Age Management Medicine think about the future of medicine, and we are practicing it today, but that kind of information with your expertise is going to help us go a longer way.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.